So, Batman the animated series. Yay!
Oh my. Hi everyone, welcome to the Reactaholics, the Batman episode that we've been delaying for so long.
Golden.
Born
So,
free as the wind blows.
oh gosh.
As free as a bat soars.
Alright. Actually, that's not a bad impression of Mark, by the way, Callum. So unfortunately, Neil...
John, I'm trying the Joker impressions.
Well, John is better. I will have to say John...
job.
Yes.
Hold
So
your heart out, John. Let's have a voice impression off, shall we?
No, because that will go on forever, and I know who's going to win. All right, so unfortunately, Neil, or Dr. Knealetapus, could not join us because he decided to go see Markiplier over doing this episode, which I'm still pretty bitter at. Markiplier.
Mark, the guy from Transformers?
No, that gaming
Guy with the
YouTuber. Yeah.
The guy that makes
Of course, that guy.
With the pink mustache.
I would go see that guy.
Pink
Too. He makes
mustache.
such great burgers.
Hello, everybody. My name is Markiplier. We're doing a podcast based on Batman,
I don't
the
think that's his
animated
voice.
series.
I think his voice is more like this, like, "Hey, Optimus Prime, where's all the Transformers?"
Markiplier's voice is a high-pitched Patrick Warburton.
Oh.
I don't think he knows that I'm joking with him.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think that went way over his head. It's
Beautiful.
okay, Callum. Everyone's
Nothing gets
special
past
in their
me.
own
My
way.
reflexes are too fast. If something goes past me, I will catch it.
So Ron, do you want to do the honors of introducing people since Neil's not here?
Oh, throw the ball to me. I got you right now.
Throwing the bone, because that's how I roll.
All right, as y'all heard before, the one going with the most voices over there, the man that I say is the man of the mouth. Ladies and gentlemen, my man from the other side of the pond, Callum. What's up, my brother?
Oh, he's the voice guy. Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Ron, thanks for that. I was.
No, I know. Don't worry. I'm not done yet. Wait for it.
Keep talking about Mr. J for me, Ron, okay?
I got you. And now, you heard her talk first. You saw her introduce the show. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only, Miss Mel. What's up?
Hi. Not much. Just sitting in my Mr. Free shirt that Eli got me for my birthday.
She's prepared and ready.
I'm wearing a little Batman outfit, but you can't see it.
So we finally figured out who's actually Bruce Wayne. It's epicvoiceguy, everybody. He's in his entire...
Hey!
Wasn't Bruce. I knew it.
It was Jon Bailey.
And I don't know if y'all heard that name pop up there, but you know that guy. You know, some epic voice guy.
You know that guy from on his trail. You know
Hi,
that guy?
I'm here.
How are you?
Yeah, how are you, John?
Hi, I'm John.
Hi.
My voice is better than Callum does.
You do.
I get paid for it, and he doesn't.
Oh.
Oh, does he? I don't know about that. But
I'm kind of a big deal. I have many leather-bound books in my apartment. Smells of
Yeah.
and me talking, I ain't nobody special. I'm just that guy sitting in the corner, but willing to say some good things about some good people. I'm your guy.
What do you mean you're not special? What do you mean you're not special, Ron? You're the most special person in this show.
Don't make me blush now. You're gonna make my cheeks turn red and like a tomato. Don't do that, man. Don't do that.
I think we came up with a new name. Your name's Ron Special.
Yes. You have to now go to Stardust now. now and change it to Ron's special.
I'd like to order the Ron special, please.
Yeah.
After the show, I gotta tell my mom about that, but I'll keep that on for later on. But this is the show. This is the Reactaholics. And this is the special Batman episode.
Reactaholics. Oh, wait, that's a different thing.
Chris is changing your name. It's great.
Hi, I'm John. I'm a Reactaholic.
Yep.
I gotta change my resume after this.
I love your resume. So nice.
All right, so since this is specifically to Batman, and since we haven't talked about the one place that got this all started was Stardust in the past few episodes, I thought we'd talk about a great subject matter that Stardust posted. So the Batwoman trailer or commercial. What's your guys' thoughts about it? We'll start with Ron.
Okay. All right. I'm going to be nice. Because I always say, I can't judge you until I watch you. And from the trailer, for what it gave me, it interests me. From what my knowledge is for Batwoman, I feel like it did enough to get us in the door. But it also threw things at some people that you know that the internet would love just to trigger up and just go on rants about. But that's not going to steer me away from checking it out. So, oh yeah, I am fully going to check this bad boy out.
Right. Okay, now I want to hear John's next.
Girl.
Come back to me, please.
Oh. Yeah,
So-
what do you think?
Oh, okay.
Me?
Yep.
Okay. I haven't actually seen the trailer, but I have seen the costumes, and first of all, I literally thought Batwoman was Batgirl, as in Barbara Gordon, but then
What?
I believe it was you people who told me who corrected me into saying that it's a completely different original character. So I
Yes.
thought, oh, okay. So I know little to nothing about Batwoman other than finding out that it's not Barbara Gordon.
You poor shelter child, and you call yourself a Batman fan. John, what's your opinion?
Hey, I read Killing Joke. I read The Owl Court.
I really like the Red Woman. Yeah, that's fine to me. I saw her a long time ago. I just assumed that she would be perfect for it, and I have no problems with it. And honestly, we're probably going to get to see more real Batman action than we ever saw in Gotham.
Right.
Tell
I
me.
haven't seen Gotham yet. I've been hesitant, and I haven't been hearing that great of things.
I don't think Gotham was centered around action, more just exposition to set
Well,
up
what I
for
can
all
say is when
action.
they did the huge crossover with Superman, Flash, and Green Arrow, that's when we first got to see her, and it was freaking great. And I'm like,
That's it.
I have no issues with this show. I think it's going to be freaking good. But I do have some issues with them bringing Catwoman and Penguin back for the villains to fight Rob Pattinson as the
Right.
Batman. That's a different bat subject.
We're going to get to that here in a second. No, I have to agree. Like, I remembered when this was like a big deal when it first came out before the commercial, and everybody was apparently pissed about Ruby Rose. I'm not against Ruby Rose doing it. Personally, I don't understand what was the comment that someone said, that she was too gay or not gay enough?
He wasn't gay enough.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I was just like, so what level of gay are we talking here? There's like, this is like a Mario game level of gay, being like, okay, so she has to be like either really, really butch, or she has to be like lipstick lesbian. Is that what you're trying to say?
On. I think we should move on.
Oh yeah,
I
but
think we're talking
otherwise,
bat on bat action, like
yep, we're talking
Like,
bat on bat.
full
Barbara
centipede
Gordon
points.
will make a feature for like some yes, the Batipede.
You can't please
Okay.
nobody.
So I think that's everyone's opinions on Batwoman. So what should we move on to next?
We're gonna talk
Rob
about.
Pattinson.
Yep. So,
Yes.
what's your guys' opinions on that? And I'll go
I hope
with...
he's a vampire bat.
Me too!
Don't yeah. Start something. But I man.
Through the night.
Oh god, but no, me too.
Does that mean Donald's going to be Batgirl?
Yep.
As Bruce
That's another
Wayne,
fan
he's
fiction.
going to sparkle like a diamond throughout the day.
Oh
See,
my god.
Okay. I got 2 cents. I got some real. Okay.
Oh god.
Okay, look. It's that why is it so hard for us to grow as actors and people? Like, why is it we're so about not moving on, being judged
It
on
just
past?
seems it's kind of echoing.
Wait, hold on, Ron. You're echoing really bad.
I'm echoing?
Yeah.
Okay, not anymore. Not anymore. But we're in a dark tunnel of Gotham. We're probably in some kind of dark alley, facing Rob Patterson face to face.
Oh, don't worry, because I got my boy. I got him. Because
John's on camera! Yes!
you see, and people are so quick to forget about, and I remember this too. Like, y'all know that people didn't really care for Heath Ledger. People were defensive on Gal's side.
Heath Ledger?
Yeah.
Heath Ledger?
Well, a lot of people, when he was first called at the time, were really skeptical that he could be a joke.
Oh no! Sorry! I misheard. Sorry. People thought it was a poor casting choice. Yeah, but then he blew everyone out of the park. Sorry. I don't. Yep.
And Hugh Jackman, people were like, are you kidding me? This guy's gonna be Wolverine? No way.
That's my future husband. Don't talk shit.
I gotta talk to him. Hold on, Mel. Hold it on now. So look, everyone had their ideas and their judgment on these actors before they saw them in the role. And what happened after that? Oh, what? I don't want them to leave. No one can replace blah and blah and blah. We can't keep judging it and saying that these people can't do it until we see them in the role. But that's the internet. No matter what, it's always you're done first before you can prove to me you can do it. I believe in him. If he does get the role, oh yeah, I want to see him take it out, because the last movie that he's done so far, he's improved.
Yes, I can definitely imagine this person as the role of Bruce Wayne. I can definitely imagine him as this tortured soul who would go out to fight crime every night. And yes, I'm so glad that he's being redeemed for that stupid Twilight series.
I have to disagree with both of you. I just am on John's side, where it's like, I hope he's a vampire. That would be fucking rad. I am sorry. Being like, he hasn't been, I think the last time I remember him was when he was in the 4th Harry Potter before Twilight. And I haven't seen him in anything good since.
That was a good role for him.
Well, and I haven't seen him in anything since. That was before he decided to, marry a woman who he was going to be like a co-star with, and then she has an affair with, I think, the director.
Yep.
Fucked him up. It's just like,
oh, geez.
I don't have hope.
Yikes.
It's true, but I just hope that being like, no, the one thing that will make this rad is if he turns into a vampire. That would be awesome.
Although, actually, now that you mentioned that, Batman has actually become a vampire at some point, so that would make all the sense in the world.
Y'all breaking me. You're hurting me.
I'm sorry, but I have to be like, nope, I have no hope.
Wondering what would break first.
Well,
patience.
I think I'm also too, I'm done with just that. I don't know if like any of you agree with me. I'm just also too done. Or at least I'm hoping they're not going to do the same thing as they've done with other Batman movies and just repeat the story, being like, we get it. He lost his parents in an alleyway, very young. He's a rich billionaire with issues, and then he gets
Even the Lego Batman movie has made fun of this.
Well, yeah, but I just have a feeling they're just going to do it again. being like, we've heard it before. We know the story. If you don't know the story by now, that's your fault. And spoilers, his parents
John
die.
wants to say something.
Well,
Okay.
you know, the Batman, ironically, the TV show cartoon, The Batman, was the one where he fought Dracula.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Oh, that would be
It's
sweet.
true. It's sadly true. I like that show too.
Right. And
John,
Robert
you got
Pattinson's going to be the Batman. Just saying. You know what? Honestly, if they did have the Man Bat in there, I would be cool with that. I'd rather see that than see Catwoman and Penguin again.
Yeah, because we.
But anyway, why don't we all...
Can we petition them to remake the movie before they even make it, just so we can ready to go?
Yes.
Already make a petition? Already?
Yep. I mean, why not? They're already petitioning that they change the entire season of the episode of Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Like, it's so easy to say, oh, make a petition to do this and that.
We will save Game of Thrones for another episode, but for
Say,
now, let's get on to
got
the
the
good stuff.
petitions on point. They're ready to go before the stuff's even done yet.
I know. They're just like, we have it on the ready.
All right, let's move on to Batman the Animated Series, this legendary, revolutionary superhero cartoon show which redefined animated television shows. And all of us in the Reactaholics cast have at least 2 questions and debates that we'd like to bring up to raise awareness of how amazing this show is. I have all the questions written down here. So, I think we'll start things off with a debate just to raise the stakes. So, my debate for all of you lovely people is this. Who do you think is the most sympathetic villain?
Two-Face.
Oh, he's hesitating.
Okay.
Oh.
John has picked Two-Face.
You don't even know mine. You don't even need to ask me mine. It's Mr. Freeze.
Yeah, that's a good
Okay,
choice.
Mel has instantly picked Mr. Okay, Mr. Freeze, Two-Face. Ron, who do you pick?
Baby Doll. AKA.
Dang it! I was gonna pick Baby Doll. Dang
AKA
it!
Baby Doll.
How's she sympathetic? I just want her to die.
Oh, come on, man. You don't feel
I don't feel for her at all.
Ladies, we
She had the greatest life. She was a child star. She has all this money. She screwed herself up.
You clipped your man.
Two-Face didn't have a choice. Two-Face was mentally disabled. That's not fair. He didn't choose that life.
Wow.
Wait, ladies,
We've only
you're
just
both pretty.
mentioned our villains,
Yep.
and already John is
I'm ready
posing
to go,
Ron's
dude.
choice.
I'll concede to Mr. Freeze because he did have a great story, although he did get wicked cold later on until he just didn't care anymore. But
There's a reason for that.
again, this was an accident. Two-Face was an accident. Baby Doll is just a brat.
I can't believe it's over here.
We haven't even started the debate yet. and
I have
John's
more
coming
sympathy
down
for the
his
Joker
voice.
than Baby Doll. Okay.
Oh, it's getting real. Oh, it's okay. The gloves are off.
Okay, John, I'm going to put you in the corner for right now. Save it. We'll at least hear Callum's choice, since apparently he was going to pick Baby Doll, but Ron snatched it.
Callum,
Pick
Callum,
one.
Oh my gosh.
Callum, you can have Baby Doll.
Oh,
You can have Baby
man.
Doll. I got a backup. I got a backup.
Okay, what's your backup, Ron?
All right. Boom, I got this. All right. Clayface.
Sucks.
Okay.
Just kidding.
Fight that. I'll fight that again.
I got it.
My man Clayface, y'all put some respect on his name. Ah, that brother, that poor man.
I got it.
Oh, wait. Ron, wait. Are you doing Baby Doll or Clayface, Ron?
No, I said if you want Baby Doll, you can have her, Callum. I got my backup. It's Clayface.
Oh, no. I'm happy to take Clayface. I don't mind. I was just going to say, the beauty of Batman is that there's so many sympathetic things that if there was a certain choice that you picked, I would have picked many more to choose from, including Clayface. So I'm happy to take on this Clayface.
As long as nobody picks Daz, because anybody who thinks he's the most sympathetic character has got some serious problems.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Right, I'm going to pick Clayface.
All right, since we've all picked ours, we're going to debate. But because John pretty much threw that the gauntlet, I want to see Ron and John go at it, being like, who
But
can
Ron,
win this side?
he's saying, wait, are we back on Baby Doll again? Or are we?
Yeah, we're having you two debate first.
Go ahead.
Whoever wins gets to
Ian
challenge
and Ellen are
Blake.
going to sit back and watch him.
I don't really care if I win or not, but I know the Two-Face is a more sympathetic character than Baby Doll. Like that requires no thought. That it requires no debate either. Defense.
Oh, excuse me over here. Oh man,
He was a good man trying to do the right thing. He did not choose to have a disorder. He did not choose what happened to him. And then the accident on top of that, he lost his fiance. And in the end, he was still tried to be like he tried to redeem himself. In fact, he's actually helped Batman at some point in situations, but eventually Darkseid took over. But yeah, he was definitely. I mean, like his whole origin episode was just heartbreaking. It was one of the most heartbreaking next to Mr. Freeze's. That one was a better choice. I didn't really think long enough before I thought of him. But yeah, I would say that he's at the top.
Mel. She instantly went for Mr. Freeze. Mr. Freeze is her life.
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, the only reason why I didn't.
I would say he's my favorite DC villain, but we'll get to mine in a second. John's still on.
All I will say about that is that the reason why I did not pick Mr. Freeze is because later on, when we find out in Batman Beyond that his wife finally gets cured, and then she leaves him, and he just turns totally cold and just doesn't care anymore. So yeah, his situation is pathetic, but he goes full dark side. Like,
hey, I have something to say about that.
When I lose hope for them, I always had hope that Two-Face was going to come back and try to do the right thing. I feel like Mr. Freeze at the beginning, yeah. But then as his story further went along, it was like, no. But Baby Dolls, oh, come on. Like, spoiled brat, pathetic, like, child actor. I mean, she's basically David Spade as a girl. I mean.
Oh my heart. I'm feeling great.
I have to see how Ron's going to retort to John. That was like burned.
Any of you spoiled rotten children? Because I do. And I know I have no sympathy for them whatsoever.
Oh my goodness.
If I could keep a voice young forever and look young forever, I could work forever. She couldn't have gone into voiceover? Are you telling me that she just couldn't get any jobs at all? No. She had to resort to life crime because she was just a rotten, spoiled brat looking for revenge. She did not have a sympathetic story. She had a pathetic story, not a sympathetic story.
Oh.
I will say there's one redeeming quality to Baby Doll. Killer Croc.
Oh, God. John, shots. I was not expecting shots fired. All right, Ron, do you have anything to retort to John?
You think the thing is that shots were fired, but y'all didn't know that I got my bulletproof vest on, so they
No.
all right, they didn't on me. But let's put some respect on Miss Doll, because I am not gonna sit here and allow such rubbish. We do that. All right, look.
I say, I haven't heard rubbish in a long time.
Right.
You will be talking about Two-Face, that guy. Okay, at that time, one point, wasn't he like one of Batman's closest friends? His bro. Okay, man. Okay, look. For what happened to you, and after everything, you still want to keep doing what you do. No. And Bat's problem is that he couldn't just let this dude go. All right. After a while, I'm like, no, man, forget you. All right. I tried. I did my best. It ain't gonna work. Okay. That's Bat's issue. He can't let go. Baby Doll. Oh, poor Baby Doll. Miss Doll.
Oh, God.
All right. Yes. Was she a child actor? Yes. Did she not want to let go of the past of her great show? Sadly, that's true. But how can you not have a heart for someone who was stuck in a situation that she couldn't push out? That literally this was her.
She could totally push out. She could be doing commercials for the rest of her life and never age. Button, dude. She has a long career. She just threw it away. It's her bad attitude that got her fired.
Every time she tried.
Always deep down.
And man, my heart broke.
She had a mental disorder like Two-Face did.
My heart broke for her when she finally realized her wrongs. Oh, that tear. Y'all remember that tear that ran through her eye? Oh, my goodness.
Oh, yeah. I remember the mirror scene.
Oh, I was all like, she knew her wrongs. And man, if anyone could understand her, it's always me. But I know deep down, all y'all know. Can't tell.
She stinks worse in her diaper.
So since we're getting debates, like Reactaholics too, I'm gonna tag team on John's side about this. No, John's 100%.
What do you want from me?
No, he's 100% right. Like, she could have, yes, can she not age? And can that, like, put some, mental strain on her psyche?
She and Ra's al Ghul could have gone and been happy together. They both live forever and be young forever. There you go.
Yeah, no, but she could have made the better of her situation.
Circuit, no problem. She could have gone online, sold merch. She could have a nostalgic comeback remake movie where she plays a cameo. Go on the red carpet. She screwed herself up, dude.
No, like I'm still on like your side here. Yeah, she could have made better of her situation, but she chose to live in her past. If they took it in a different route of her dealing with not aging and not just about the show, maybe she would have been a little bit sympathetic. And the only sympathetic part was towards the end of that episode. That was it. That was it. Otherwise, she was a spoiled, entitled brat who she had it made, and she made it difficult. Like, it even showed in the back, even if you argue being like she tried getting other roles and she couldn't. No, it was because she was hell-bent on that one role that made her famous.
Plus, another little white girl. At least Harvey Dent was an African-American, the only African-American in the whole stinking show, besides
That's
Fox.
True. Yeah, that's true.
And look what they did to him. Put him out with a mental disability, got his friggin' face acided. That ain't cool.
Y'all done?
Makeup. You know what? Clayface should put some makeup on his face and fixed him.
Oh,
he's tracking you in the head.
Yeah,
that's very true.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Don't even worry about it. I'm sensing doubt from them.
Okay.
I'm sensing doubt from each and every one of them.
There's doubt in fact.
Doubt. Because right now, oh my goodness, right here. Because y'all just don't. Your heart, you're the Grinch, right? That green guy's Grinch. Your hearts are that small. And I'm trying to my best to open you. To realize in your eyes.
Two-Face had an origin story that was heartbreaking. That has way more sympathy. All the way through, I felt bad for him. He didn't want what happened to him. He was broken, and they pushed him too far. And he went after the bad guys who needed to get gone after. Mm-hmm. He was trying to clean up the city and be a good dude.
Be a good dude, Mr. Two-Face. He tried. He thinks he was. But his intentions, my gosh, man. Like, yeah, I thought that whole episode was
good, though. She was always rotten.
Miss Doll, we knew her core as a person from her demons, her fault. Broke her really down.
Crying,
she had bigger demons in her heart than estrogen.
And after I
all day, son.
It's okay. Like the internet, you always have haters.
I'm going to start a petition to remove Baby Doll from this conversation.
Well,
I want to remake Baby Doll. I want them to go back and remake Batman the Animated Series better.
Oh man!
Wouldn't that be great if somebody actually
Jon
did?
Is pretty much burnt to a crisp. Jon,
John's just not giving any room.
to argue against next.
No, because I agree. Mr. Freeze is more sympathetic than Two-Face.
Yep.
But he's definitely more sympathetic than Baby Doll.
Sadly, there will always be the doubters out there, but it's okay. It's all right.
He sounds like somebody. Somebody's like, "Oh, Daenerys is still good. She's alright. I should root for her. She's not that bad." Little blonde white girls, they're fine. They're not bad. They're sympathetic.
Well, I think we all know, and I think we can all agree that Jon is still in the race of the debate with Two-Face and Ron's out. with Baby Doll, being like, sorry, Ron, I think you should know when you're beat. I know that you're beat. I think Callum knows that you're beat. So for this round of the debate, the winner, I think, goes to Two-Faced for round 1.
I get 2 awards, right?
Huh? You get 2.
I reluctantly throw in my towel. You may go.
Threw in the diaper.
All right.
Make better choices, man.
Everyone's a critic.
Okay. All right. So I guess it's now Clayface versus Mr. Freeze, and I'm not going to be gentle on you at all. So I just have to start with one question.
This is a pretty dang good debate because they both have pretty horrible stories, and I feel bad for both of them.
Right, I do too. But here's where mine beats yours, and it just starts with one simple question, Callum.
Okay.
How can I feel bad for an actor who got in a car accident, which did disfigure him, but then decided, oh, I'm just going to be bad now?
No, he did drugs. He got hooked on drugs.
Yeah.
Drug addict.
Yeah, yep. I mean, here's what makes him sympathetic. That's what drugs does to you. I mean, he got disrepaired. He was such a dedicated actor that he'd be willing to do anything, any lengths to fulfill his dreams. And as a fellow actor myself, I've got to relate to that. So he puts on this weird goop, which can make him practically shapeshift. So he can look like anybody he likes. He's like the Daniel Day-Lewis if he could shapeshift now. He could blend into any role and he's fulfilling his dreams. But then the more of this group he uses, the more corrupt he becomes. And that's what makes him so sympathetic and so tragic. And whereas Mr. Freeze, as sympathetic as he is...
Well, here's the difference between yours and mine. Mr. Freeze didn't choose his path. Yours did.
Ooh.
He chose to get into drugs, even though he was trying to be an inspired actor. And I get it. Drugs in Hollywood, it is like, America with... Yeah, it's like, it happens. But he still chose to do the drugs, which led to his accident. So which he kind of, in a sense, chose his fate if he didn't, and if he actually took his career seriously. And was just like, no, maybe say no to drugs, kids, like they preached in the 90s and the 80s. Maybe John saying they tricked him and got him addicted. The evil
pharmacy was the bad guy all along.
I'm trying to help Callum because he has a very hard debate.
Yeah. No, I mean, you can help him and all that, but still, it wasn't like the drug companies. They tricked him, but he still chose to take it. Mr. Freeze did not choose his situation at all. But yet yours chose.
He did, because he chose to put his wife in cryogenic stasis, and he chose to steal government equipment. There must have been other methods.
Thanks, John. I was helping you out, buddy. I see how it is.
Ain't no friends in this. Ain't no friends in war.
You may have a point. He just chose to steal, but yours chose more. Yours is too good against Cal. Well, that's an argument I can throw, being like, yeah, mine is too good.
Cal, don't you lay down. Come on, Mal. Come on now.
Yeah, so he's also too, like, babyface. If you want to think about it, they chose how this would affect them. Like, even if he was being consumed. Exactly, John. Thank you. I know Mr. Freeze. But your guy is like, there's really there is a few bits that are sympathetic, but it was at the end it was kind of greed. Also, too, like Baby Doll's case, it was essentially greed and, just thinking about himself. Whereas with Mr. Freeze, on the other hand, he did his stuff for someone else. Clayface did Baby Doll
Baby Doll baseball.
I wish the people who are watching this episode can see the chat, because I'm trying my best to, just get this over with. But here's Jon being like, I'm trying not to laugh. I'm trying not to laugh.
Wish trolls out there. It's okay. It's okay.
I'm not saying anything. I'm letting you talk.
But no, but at the end of the day, like even arguably Two-Face too, but this is just stretching it. They all ended up being who they are over selfish reasons. My guy didn't, but mostly. No, he did not. He did that for someone else. It wasn't about him. If it was about him, it would be like, could be Jon.
For those of you who don't see it, Jon has recently said Mr. Freeze could be ice cream man.
As much as I would like him in a red suit and picture him being Strawberry Jon, no. but your guy did. Mr. Freeze did not do his acts, none of his acts out of selfish reasons. Your guy, though, on the other hand, did. Baby Doll did. You can arguably that Two-Face, which I'll get to that later, he did his out of selfish reasons like most. You're just doing it. But my guy, Mr. Freeze, he did it out of love. He did it out of selflessness, trying to save somebody he cares about. If it was out of selfishness, he would have just experimented on anybody with this and kind of went the Mr. Scarecrow route, but he didn't.
I hate to go outside the series, but I think somewhere in the comics, Batman outright says to Mr. Freeze, you're doing it for selfish reasons, just for your own glory. I can't exactly remember how it went, but Batman essentially said, you're just doing it for your own satisfaction at this point.
When you can name me what it is, then you can use that as an argument.
Oh, my heart.
Because you can't remember.
Oh, my heart. Oh, I felt that. Oh.
So basically,
Jon has a
Clayface.
point. We're not talking about comics, though.
Okay, in which case, everyone, rewind. Forget I ever said that. So what makes Clayface?
That's Arnold. Yeah, I have not forgotten.
Let's kick some ice.
Not forgotten.
Cal, defend yourself, man. Defend it. Defend your throne.
Yeah. I can't.
Nice to meet you.
No, I have to watch that movie. I think Eli owes it when he wakes up. Just for that.
Shake my head.
Well,
my heart is cold as ice. Give the heroes! Batman! I'm coming for you, Batman! Get down! Get to the cooler! Get in the cooler! Come on! This is the reason why you can't bring up comics, because that opens up to everything else.
Shake my head.
Okay, no.
That just to prove a point. I love it.
I'm not your mercy.
You can't attack her with comics or anything else. It's got to stick to the cartoons, pal.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll stick to the cartoons.
And honestly, Clayface is the best version of himself in the comics. And I would argue on Callum's side, better voice actor than Mr. Freeze. Hey, Mark Perlman was one of his best roles ever.
No, I disagree.
Nothing to do with him being sympathetic. It's just a cool fact.
It's an excellent point.
But Callum, I'm waiting.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you just win.
Yeah, I think I just went too, but I'm a merciful God.
I think Clayface needs to take little parts of his body and put them in little bottles and sell himself off. Two-Face can fix his own face. Mr. Freeze can go to selling ice cream, you know? Everybody's upset.
Would you like strawberry or raspberry flavor?
A killer frosty.
I think if you had nothing to really like go on, Callum, like just telling you, being like, at the end of the day, Clayface did a lot of his shit for selfishness. My guy didn't.
Although I will bring up another scene with Clayface, and this is the end of Clayface Part 2. So Clayface is having a showdown with Batman, right? So he's fighting him with all.
Hello?
Hello, Callum?
What are you doing?
We never heard.
And you're feeling his psychological damage, and Bruce Wayne is just begging him, "I can turn you back to what you originally were. We can be good friends. You can who you used to be. I can help you." But
I can make you ugly again.
Denial, and he's just in complete torment. And then he's just shape-shifting and gooey, and it's such a tremendous scene, and really well animated as well, if you didn't notice already.
Yeah, so what's your point, though?
It was bad. I think
It
was heartbreaking.
The point is, Clayface it was dramatic, and Clayface is psychologically damaged, and he needs some love. Lots of love. Poor precious Clayface.
But you can argue Babyface is psychologically damaged, Two-Face is psychologically damaged, but it's all about, at the end of the day, it's about choice.
But only one's made out of silly putty.
And
John, you're going to kill me at the end of this episode. I can't. I'm over. But it's once again, it's about choice. And I remember that episode quite well. Yes, it was sad. And
Mr. Freeze,
tragic.
31 choices of flavors. Have an ice day.
Oh,
He could get like a xylophone. He could get like a xylophone version of the Batman theme song to play in his little ice cream truck.
I can't.
Got a giant Joker face on top.
Okay.
My heart is breaking right now.
John,
I'm losing
you know what you
weight.
are right now, John? You are the laughing gas. That's what you're doing to us. We are going to die with grotesque smiley faces, and it's all going to be your fault, John.
Oh, God.
And shaking heads. Continuously shaking your head.
I am the
I'm just going to say,
Anyway.
I think I won.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mel won. I mean, to be honest, I knew I was going to lose, but I was still worthy to hold my ground at the very least.
At least you decided to go with Clayface instead of your original baby doll argument, Ron.
Yeah, throw a frog in your throat now. I got something in there.
At least.
Yeah.
Can't believe it.
I think Riddler honestly was more sympathetic than Clayface was.
Yeah.
Because he got screwed out of his job and they stole his game. And just like fired him, which is bullcrap, so he had a legit reason to be ticked off.
So,
But he ain't
riddle me
no
this. Who will win this round? Will it be Mel or John?
All right. I'm just naming off sympathetic characters.
He's just like, who's better than Baby Doll or Clayface? We got the Riddler.
Really, you really think about it, Harley's one of the saddest characters because she was a perfect normal person, and Joker twisted her, screwed her up bad.
Oh yeah, to the point where even like beyond the show, even that's where she got her origins from, which most people still don't know, which shocks me. She's permanently like fucked up no matter what, and she tries getting out of it. It's kind of like the battered wife syndrome.
All these Harley fans don't even realize they have Batman the Animated Series to thank for her.
Yeah, I know. It pisses me off when people are just like, "Oh, I'm a fan," and I was like, "Oh," being like, "Oh yeah, where did she start? Oh, she started in the comic books, right?"
I was like, "Oh yeah, she was in Suicide Squad." I'm like,
that came out after.
It's like casual.
Oh, that hurts.
But Mr.
That hurts
Freeze
their soul.
compared to Two-Face, though, this is going to be kind of tough.
No, like I said,
I already know I won.
you already won because I don't think there's anybody more sympathetic in the show than Mr. Freeze's situation.
Well, yeah, because like I have to explain this to people. Like when Neil said that he was originally going to be here, he was going to pick the Mad Hatter, which I was just kind of like, why? He was an insane stalker who couldn't get the girl, and he tried giving her some, giving him some sympathy. And I was like, well, it kind of stems down to that. Whereas most of them had a choice. Mr. Freeze didn't choose. And I think that's what makes him the most sympathetic out of all of them.
That's the reason why I picked Two-Face, because he didn't choose what happened to him either. But the only thing I would say, the reason why I know your argument's stronger than mine, because if you look at, within the context of Batman the Animated Series solely, Mr. Freeze is definitely the most sympathetic character. But then you move on to later on in the show, where it picks up with New Adventures of Batman and Robin. He gets colder and worse, because, but then he redeems himself in Batman Beyond, because Batman tries to help him again, and he saves him. So it's like, he kind of wins, I mean, to be honest.
Yeah, and also, too, like, he realizes that with, especially about his wife, with the Batman Beyond, I'm glad you pointed that out, too, because people tend to forget about it, where it's like, he actually got a chance to live his life normally, like, to be able, like, the things that most people took for granted with him, like, he couldn't feel the sun on his skin anymore. He can feel like the wind on his face. He says it all through the Heart of Ice episode. The smallest things that we take for granted, he can't have anymore. Yep. And
when they finally healed him, like his wife left him, while he was stuck in cold storage.
Right.
He gets a cure, and he's fine. He's got a new lease on life. He donates all his money to the victims of the people that he's hurt when he was Mr. Freeze, and then he gets screwed over again. And it's not by choice once again. So yeah, he wins like pathetic character.
Yeah, and especially that one line he says to Batman in that, being like, "Trust me, you're the only one that cares." That speaks volumes to what he's been through. Like, because with most of the villains, they chose. At the end of the day, they chose their fate. He really didn't choose, and
they get screwed over twice.
The world was cruel. Yeah, he got screwed over twice. Out of all of them, he got screwed over twice because he wasn't essentially bad. Like, yes, he becomes dehumanized before Beyond, but it's just because that's what the world did to him.
No, that was a result of the disease too.
Yeah, and the disease too.
His emotions and his sympathy and his, his ability to care, his empathy, it was all erased because of the disease. So he just didn't have a choice anymore. But he was never evil. He was never evil just for the sake of being evil. He was trying to save his wife, and then when she left him, like he was he was incarcerated for like 50 years ahead of Freezer.
Yeah.
And to mention, that was one of the best episodes of Batman Beyond. He had one of the best lines. It's something I had in cold storage. So cool.
Right.
Got that great Blight hot versus cold fight between Blight and Mr. Freeze. Yeah, he's the best. He's one of my favorites too.
Right. But I guess I win.
You do. You win.
Get over Baby Doll already, Ron. My God.
Baby Doll never had a chance. I'll take Silver. I'm fine with that.
Well, we could talk the next topic. Which one of you guys would love to throw it in?
John, did you want to use one of yours?
Am I supposed to have a question about this, or just bring it up in chat?
You can bring it up. The questions that Callum gave you were questions that originally we had when we first were going to do this episode, but it got lost in translation just because we have not done it for a while. Like, I don't even remember whose questions were whose at first. Okay. It was just it was a list, and that's why he offered being like, hey, you get to pick and choose which question that you want to ask or which question that you want to talk about.
Well,
you can have your own too.
Mine was best episode of Batman, and mine's not from the original. It is from the series. It's just not from the very first, seasons. Mm-hmm. But the episode that was one of my all-time favorites was the one, and I can't remember the title off the top of my head. I'll have to Google it. And just didn't do it. But yeah. the episode where they discovered Batman's identity because Batgirl was killed, and after him, you find out that it's actually the fear toxin from Scarecrow. The reason why this is one of my favorite episodes is because my brother helped give Paul Dini the idea for that episode.
Really?
They were pen pals over email for a long time, and he asked my brother. He's like, "What's the worst thing that could happen to Batman? Like the absolute worst situation?" He's like, "His identity becomes public, and the police come after him." And he took that and turned that into that episode. And it's like one of the, because you don't even know, you think it's all really happening, and it's like this is going to be the end of Batman, like
Right.
the entire police force, like, and it also shows Commissioner Gordon could have found out who he was all along. He didn't
Right.
want to because it was good of the city, but then when his daughter died in the process, and he never told her, and she never told him, and Batman never told Commissioner Gordon that, you know, your daughter's working with us, and they go from best friends to instant worst enemies. That whole episode was just fantastic.
I have to agree. No, I still, every time I see that episode, I still feel my heart race. Just like when the first time I ever do.
Like, oh crap, how are they going to get out of this?
Right?
they're basically under a bridge, like at one point.
Alfred even gets arrested. Like, it was like a domino effect. It kept getting worse and worse and worse.
It was a great episode, man. And I would say a close runner-up to that one was not actually an episode of Batman, but it was a crossover episode with Superman called Nightfall, where...
sorry, I lost connection there.
Oh, sorry. Batman missing. Bruce Wayne went missing, and then come to find out, Brainiac had kidnapped him to use a rocket to get himself into orbit. And Superman had to put on the cowl, and he has to fight all of Batman's villains, and it's funny and really cool. It's a great episode, but it's not a Batman the Animated Series episode. It's a Superman episode.
Yeah, but it was still.
We're talking about best episode.
Yes.
Mhm.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else for best episode?
So I'll actually go now. So people would assume that it would be Heart of Ice. No, and I don't remember what the episode is called, but it's the one where we actually get to see Bruce if his parents didn't die.
Oh yeah.
That's a good episode too.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
yeah.
the reason why
That was a Mad Hatter episode.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Spoiler alert.
And the reason why I love it so much is that even though it's an illusion and you don't figure that out until the end fully, but you see his internal conflict of he has a chance to possibly be happy and he still fights against it. Not only because he knows that there's something off about it, but it's him punishing himself. And that's what I think a lot of Batman fans today don't quite remember, or at least the newer ones don't remember, is that his whole entire thing about being Batman is a huge guilt trip. He still puts himself to blame of why his parents died, of why everything happens, and essentially it's his fault, and he gets an out, even though it's an illusion, he gets, in a sense, an out, but he doesn't want that. Like, he gets Selena Kyle, too.
Well, I think it's because he felt that was too good to be true.
Right.
It's like the Matrix, like when your world's too perfect, the human beings rejected it. That one episode though, there was one part about that always bugged me. It's when the big reveal when he realizes he's asleep or he's under mind control, and he tries to read the paper, and it's all just a bunch of gobbledygook. I've read things in my dreams. I've read them just fine. So that was like,
yeah. I
like,
have to agree.
like every single book has it starts to get where, because there's no way they would be able to put words in every single book.
Right.
But it's like,
I mean,
because you can read in your dreams. And I'm like, well, crap, you can read in your dreams. I can read in my dreams.
Well,
No,
I
think that was the biggest boo-boo
as
too,
true
yeah.
as that is, you're still in this warped, in a dreamy state. Your brain's not altogether awake, so you're bound to at least sense something weird.
Right.
Yeah, but I think what John is saying is that, because I've had dreams too where I read stuff, and actually I had kind of a similar dream to that last night. And I remembered I could not read all the words. So, because it's Batman, though, he figures it out by reading a newspaper. Being like, okay.
Well, you know what? This is Bruce Wayne's dream, not our dreams. If this was Jon Bailey, he would have read it fine. But this is Bruce Wayne. He can't read it.
I know. I think you got that reversed, Callum. But still, no, I think that I think that pretty much like establishes, so much with this show going forward, and kind of like you actually get to dive into not only Batman's desires and what he truly wants, but knows he can't have, but also too, you kind of develop if you never read a comic book or saw the show before, that episode pretty much like stems of being like, that's Bruce's psyche.
Yeah. Yeah. It's even debated, even amongst the main villain. The Mad Hatter was kindly willing to let Bruce Wayne be in the dream world forever, albeit at the expense that Mad Hatter could do whatever he liked. But still, Mad Hatter clearly said that he would give Batman whatever he desired. But Batman still said, no, this isn't real. I don't care what state this is. I don't care what I get. This is a dream. It's not real. I will not live a dream. I want to be a hero, basically. That's basically what Batman's trying to argue.
My favorite part of that episode is the fact that he still figured out what it was within it. Like, he figured out that it was Mad Hatter because he's just that good of a detective.
Yep. Because he's the world's greatest detective.
I would have also had something to do with Scarecrow's fear toxin or something, but that's a better choice.
And this question was really hard for me, just because like the animated series has a lot of episodes, but I felt like it would have been the easy way out for me just to pick the Heart of Ice episode. Like, everything about that, like, I believe that was the most expensive episode that they ever made was Heart of Ice. But that would have been too easy, like, as much as I love Mr. Freeze, but it also had to remind me being like, I like the show for the show.
Plus, that was a direct-to-DVD or that was a movie, technically speaking, not an episode.
Mm-hmm. But I felt like it would have been too easy of a pick, so I had to, like, really delve in, and then I came across that episode again. Yeah.
It's one of my favorites, too. I almost brought that one up, but just the other one, so I eked it out just a little.
Right. Agreed. And I just think for me, Heart of Ice would have been, like, it would have been obvious, like, being like, nope, that one's really awesome. But, yeah, no, that's why I decided to go with that episode instead, just because I remembered that did stick out to me a lot the first time I watched it, and then revisiting it again was just like, oh, this was an amazing episode. Even with that one flaw that Jon brought up, but of course it's Batman.
Well, I mean, it's still a kid show at the end of the day.
Right.
It's a kid show for all ages. Why else would we grown-ups be talking about it?
I mean, it was dark.
I will say, like, the episode, like, there was a few episodes, the one that you were talking about with Clayface, like, some of those were pretty, like, terrifying.
Right.
Like, it was like, when he starts, like, changing various forms and he can't control it anymore, that was like, holy crap, I can't believe they did this in a kid's show.
I know. It just makes you realize, too, how much, just with that show alone and other shows from, like, the 80s and the 90s, that they got away with a lot of shit. And probably explains why a lot of people who watched those shows at the time probably went to therapy or started drinking or went to voice acting.
Right.
Well, see, I was a teenager when it came out, so I was like, yeah, this is for my age. This is not a kid's kid show. This is like young, young kid, teen, tween age, because it was much darker, much more serious. The Man Bat episode was pretty scary too.
Oh yeah, I remember that one. That still gives me like Vietnam flashbacks, being like, oh god.
I think the darkest thing they ever did was Return of the Joker, the uncensored.
Oh, that means I'm very comfortable.
Oh gosh, yes.
Okay, Alan, what's yours, man? You got an episode for yourself?
So Vaughn has picked one, and Mel has picked one. Did you pick one yet, Ron?
Not yet.
Oh, okay. Well, there are so many fantastic episodes. I could go on and on about them all day, but let's just get to the one that we all adore. The one called Almost Got Him. Yes. Almost Got Him it's a great setup for an episode. Essentially, all our favorite villains are all together and they're playing cards at a table. Joker, Killer Croc, Penguin, Two-Face, Poison Ivy, and all of them bring up a conversation that they were very close to killing off the Batman. And they all bragged that all of them came the closest. But then they decide, all right, you know what? Let's settle this debate. Let's tell our stories and see who really came close by the time. And then you see all these different stories of how they almost got Batman nearly escapes, and it's a really great setup and for different adventures and really funny moments. The funniest moment being Killer Croc's story.
Yep. Well, it was a big rock.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I think that's exactly the part.
And a nice little rock at him.
So,
plus, it had one of the best endings too.
Yep.
The favorite part was when the light shade like moves and you see Batman's eyes in the shadow and it swings back, and I'm like, oh, that's so cool.
Oh, that is so cool. Yes. You know, something I don't think I've mentioned yet is that in terms of Batman costume designs, I have a soft spot for the glowing eyes.
It steeps in, man. It's woof.
Yep. No, I remembered that episode quite well, and I think whoever does not remember that episode needs to revisit it again, because that was just great. I think you got like a perfect balance of everything: action, comedy, just everything that's like Batman stimulated, and just the fact that they all set it up at a poker game. That part always cracks me up. Being like, here's a bunch of like the greatest villains of Gotham just sitting at a table playing poker. Being like, this is the one night they are not committing crime.
And I also liked, I've been watching the series recently, and there was a very clever callback to a previous episode regarding Poison Ivy, where Two-Face says, the one half wants me to get you in it, the other half wants me to hit you with a truck. We used to go out dating. They actually did that. In Poison Ivy's debut, she was literally dating Harvey Dent when he was still Harvey Dent. That was such a clever callback.
The first gold digger of that show. It wasn't even for gold digging, it was for murder.
Shake my head. Ugh.
All right, Ron, what's your favorite episode?
Well, fun thing.
Oh,
John took the episode I was gonna take over the
I'm
edge.
sorry, man.
But no, it's okay. It's all good. It's all fine.
That's what happened. You picked Baby Doll, dude. I'm sorry.
that was my punishment. Clearly. As I waited, I thought back to one episode when I remember I watched Batman the show, and this episode actually gave me nightmares. It actually messed with my head for a little bit when I was little. When I watched. And it's funny that we brought up Clayface, The Feet of Clay, part 1 and 2. His transformation to becoming Clayface, and finding out more about that episode, how like they had a fight to keep some of the things inside of it, because the censors were like, "Whoa, what are you doing? Like this is kind of dark." And like you just seeing, and I think his name was Matt Hagen, who was Clayface. Seeing his transformation from the blood actor to his accident to being so desperate to get back what he lost, and then seeing his transformation to Clayface, it's messed up. Like it's sad. And when he goes and fights Batman, his transformations. Oh man, like it gets me. Like crud, it gets me. And I remember I had a nightlight back when, and my mom wouldn't let me go to bed. Like, Ron, go to sleep. What are you doing? No, the nightlight doesn't work. I can't go to sleep because the Clayface is gonna get me. And my mom's like, Clayface? What are you talking about? No, Mom, Clayface. He's gonna come and get me. So
he had eyes and crazy teeth, dude. I was scared of him too.
Yeah.
So that still sticks. That still like holds a spot in me, like for years on end.
Right. I think it's like, you know, with that show, there's so many great episodes, but I think it's just like the ones you know that stick out to you the most are the ones that, you know, show what the show's about. No pun intended, or no play on words there. But it's so hard. Like, I remember just sitting there when we first asked the question, being like, which was the best episode? I don't really remember.
It's like pick your favorite job. It's possible.
I think a great question would have been, what's the best episode to get somebody into Batman the Animated Series?
Ooh, that's a good question.
If that's the case, my answer would be kind of different. Kind of. I would actually introduce. I'd
have to think of it. I don't know.
Yeah. If I had to pick, like, if someone was pointing a gun to my head, I would say the episode when Harvey Dent turns into Two-Face. I would have to, like, from not his full transfer, you know. And I have to tell people, being like, no, you have to deal with him dealing with his, you know, psychology stuff first, and that's where you'll get invested. But otherwise, it's hard. Like, that's just if I put a gun to my head. But I would have to sit down and think.
I suppose. One time, I introduced my sister to the show by showing her Christmas with the Joker, and she was amazed that the Joker was voiced by Luke Skywalker, and yada yada yada.
Yeah, that was a good episode. That's funny. I think it might be for me, if, like I said, gun to my head, not time to think and search for it. It'd probably be the episode where he finally got Batman to laugh, and he told a joke.
Yeah, that was a good episode too.
No, not the Killing Joke. The episode in Batman Animated Series.
Yeah, there was an episode where he made him laugh that was not Killing Joke related.
I think you'd only turn it off when I was halfway across. Sorry, a little reference.
I think the episode I would put in, because especially if I'm like, oh, you're a Harley Quinn fan? Okay, I got you. Come here. Did you know that she was in the Batman animated series? Shut up! Oh, I can't do that, and you won't watch it. So I would show the episode where Harley Quinn becomes that character, the way her transformation to become that, and then they'll see it and they'll be like, "Oh, wow!"
I think that was season 4, right? Because I know the later, yeah.
That would literally, I think,
episode in season 4.
Go ahead,
I think that would like go from be like, oh, it's a fun cosplay, to being, oh crud, wow, that's kind of depressing.
It might actually stop the, you know, people who are, you know, make Joker and Harley Quinn like ship or like, you know, goals. People actually stop saying that they're relationship goals.
Be like, oh, I need a question.
Yeah, those morons have no idea what Batman or what Poison Ivy's about.
Right. Did you just say Poison Ivy? All right, so we did the question of the best episode, so I guess I'll pull up one of my questions. Do you think the show should be revived?
Ooh, that's it. I got an answer for that.
And you guys whoever has an answer can go first.
Do you mean rebooted or just continued?
It could be either or.
Yeah, because they already did continue, as they continued into Batman Beyond, and they did like two other shows where they even changed the animation style, like New Adventures and Batman and Robin.
So it can be either continuation or a total reboot, whichever one you choose.
Well, I don't really have an answer for that, but I would say I liked Batman better when it was just Batman before they brought Robin into it. It felt a little more kid-ish. I don't know. At that point.
Yeah, Robin appeared in various episodes of the animated series.
Well, it depends on which Robin you're talking about.
Oh, I know which one I would introduce him to, the very first one. Heart of Steel 2-parter.
Yes!
That was a great freaking... That one had me like, what is going on?
I love that episode. But yeah, so do you guys think... So I'll make it easier. Do you guys think that the show should be rebooted?
I don't think so. I don't think you should mess with the classic.
Yeah, I mean, you shouldn't mess with the classics, but I think if you got the original crew back, and think about this, they've improved on the animation, not just for animated, but just anything animated in DC in general. They've improved a lot, you know, stuff like combining computer animation with traditional animation, much smoother fighting scenes, or etc., etc. I think if you had the right passionate team who could recapture the art style but make it slightly new so that it would be improved, and maybe a bit more grit, maybe put on Adult Swim or something, I don't know, then maybe it could be something amazing. Because I'm just letting my... Sorry?
No, go ahead.
Okay, so it's just that I don't know about you, but I am a huge diehard fan of Samurai Jack, and I adored what they did with their own reboot of season 5.
Yeah,
It was great.
Yes.
That wasn't a reboot. That was a continuation of the show.
yeah,
It was a continuation.
Yeah.
And
if you think about it, Young Justice on DC Universe is actually a continuation of Justice League, which was a continuation of Batman the Animated Series. So, I mean, it's already still going, technically speaking. Yeah. And it just, let's look at it. Brave and the Bold was a great series by itself.
John?
We lost him?
I think so.
John.
Why'd you bring up Dragon Ball? It ruins everything else.
Hopefully he'll come back.
So essentially, just make it like a revived season 5. You could have it like make it a continuing story this time, like what they did with Samurai Jack. Have the last season be a continuous story, make it much darker and grittier, and come to some kind of satisfying conclusion.
Can you hear me now?
That's what I had in mind.
Oh,
yeah, we got.
There you go.
Okay. Let's just think about all of the reboots that we already have had. We've already had the Batman. It's two Ben 10 / Jackie Chan Advancer style. The Batman the Brave and the Bold was for younger kids, but was a really fun show, and we got to see a lot more characters. We already got Justice League. We're still getting Batman animated movies from DC. Yeah. So I don't think this particular story needs to be redone. In fact, if you think about it, the original show didn't even do his origin. They just started off with him as Batman automatically. Like, right. They didn't even bring up his origin until the first episode with Scarecrow, I think.
Yeah.
So I just
Phantasm, which we will get on.
Yeah, I just don't think it needs to be rebooted. I think it was a great show by itself. I think they could just make new Batman stories, but I think, honestly, they've kind of Batmaned us to death. There's not much new territory where they would be like, oh, this is, that Batman was Batman was such awesome, just bam. When it came out, it was like, holy crap. And I don't think they can do that again. I really don't.
They cannot strike lightning twice. But you know what? I think that's a perfect transition to Ron's question. Ron, would you like to give us one of your questions, please?
Well,
Oh man!
Well, we didn't really get to hear like Ron's thoughts about the reboot, so.
Oh, okay.
I'll make mine quick. It's because basically I'm kind of backpacking on John's. I agree that it doesn't need to. Some things don't need to be rebooted. Some things are kind of just fine with what it is. Because like, if you have nothing else to add on to it, what are you doing? That you're just milking it to death. And
I mean, it had a great big reboot in Batman Beyond, and it didn't. It was, for some reason, it didn't last long enough.
Right.
I think I was the viewership. I think the viewership kind of like just faded for a bit.
I think they all got too old and moved on, and the rest of us wasn't enough to carry the show.
Well, and that's what I was going to say about Callum's thing about him, about what he said originally was some of the voice actors already passed away. Like, I know Mr. Freeze's voice actor actually died shortly after his episode of Beyond.
Yes,
he passed away, and not all the.
You could get some impersonators, but we understand. Yeah, we understand the situation.
But like like the whole entire idea. Like, I personally think too, and this kind of playing on John and Ron's thing is, my personal opinion is that the Batman animated series, in my opinion, it's one of those few shows that are timeless. You can go back and watch it again. And it doesn't feel like some things you can tell are dated, like the CGI in Mask of the Phantasm is kind of dated now compared to CGI standards, but it's timeless.
Just on the intro, so.
Well, yeah, but that's just my point. Is that it's one of those shows that it will live on forever, and it's one of those few shows that you can go back, watch over and over, and it doesn't feel like it was made in the 90s. for me anyways. And it's kind of like, especially with these day and age with like people rebooting stuff, like we were just talking about, you know, even though this is not Batman related at all, but we're talking about like how they're making a sequel to Maleficent. That's for another episode. I don't want to get on that shit. I'm okay, so mad. But
I will go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. But but I just think that, you know, rebooting, it just shows that, yes, people are out of original ideas, and that's fine. But for the animated series, I don't think it needs it. I think it still stands strong on its own. But go ahead, John.
Fair enough.
I will say this. I have always wanted them to... I don't know if you guys ever seen the special edition of Iron Giant, where they added in this... They finished animating the scenes that got cut.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet, no.
Okay. I would love for them to go back and redo the animation. Just keep everything else the same. You don't have to change anything. Just redo the animation in the current TV format,
right,
in digital high def, and then finish animating things that never got finished, you know, and making like uncut versions of the original shows, but with, you know, that way we can see it on a big widescreen, 4K. Because there were so many rules that they weren't allowed to do until Mask of the Phantasm. Like they weren't allowed to use handguns, they weren't allowed to put child endangerment, no nudity, no adult situations. There was a lot of like rules they had to.
That's going too far. That's going too far.
But like that's the only thing about watching the show now, even though I agree that it's timeless, is watching it in that box in the middle of my widescreen TV. It's like, right? And I'm like, man, if the animation was updated for this, it would be amazing.
Right. Agreed.
Don't change anything else though. The stories are fine, and everything else is for the voice, the music. Holy crap! It was some of the best music of any show that's ever been made.
Oh yes.
Danny Elfman. Danny
Elfman wrote the original, but Shirley something did the show music.
Yeah.
I bought the soundtrack, and it's like she has the whole thing at the end of it. Not Temple, no. I can't remember her name. But yeah, it's based on Danny Elfman's stuff, and he might have had something to do with it. I'm not sure, but her name was on is at the end of every song. But yeah, the show's music really kind of made the show. It felt like we were getting an animated a movie that was made into a cartoon for kids.
Right. No, I agree that, especially the score felt. Oh, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to get back to Ron. I felt like he was missing out.
No, I'm cool. I'm straight. I'm straight.
Oh, okay.
All right. Well, you were trying to lead on to one of Ron's questions, since this one kind of led to. Which one did you pick that would have led on?
Yeah. My question, and I'll leave this up for you guys because I just got a message from my job. I gotta head over to work. Mm-hmm. So, but I'll leave y'all with this. Right. I honestly would love to hear this from y'all. Has any show come close to duplicating the success or just the same energy vibe of the Batman animated series?
I mean, we're talking about the same era. I would say the X-Men was pretty hardcore awesome. And Gargoyles. Holy crap. Gargoyles was the equivalent to Batman.
Don't you dare bring up Gargoyles. Don't you do that.
Gargoyles was Disney's Batman.
Oh, don't bring that in here.
Until that crazy, weird last season, that show was amazing.
The only thing that Gargoyles unfortunately did not accomplish was it didn't have as many seasons or episodes. It kind of actually, I think it cut off before they could finish it, right?
Right. So I know of something within the Batman franchise, actually, that has, when you think about it, come close to duplicating the animated series. In fact, you could say it gave it some new life. I am referring to the Batman Arkham games.
I mean, I guess it kind of has like a similar feel to it, obviously, because I know that at least with, I think, 2 of the games, they got Kevin and Mark back into it.
And Harley Quinn and some other voice actors, yeah.
Yeah, but
and encapsulated.
I know exactly what cartoon has done the same thing. Voltron on Netflix.
True.
They have done just as good with their show as like holy crap, and I mean all the seasons that they got, great story arcs, great animation, great voice cast. I believe it's on par. Maybe not as big as well. Time will tell. It depends on if people are still talking about Voltron 10 years from now. But I would say, like, definitely it has had the same kind of impact and same similar type action series show that was like, holy cow, that's freaking awesome. I don't think any other show's done quite that good.
Right.
Even shows I loved did not do that well overall. Like Transformers Prime was a great show, but did not do as well as Batman did over, the entire world.
Yes. And as I was saying about the Batman Arkham series, you got to keep in mind that before Arkham Asylum, other video games that capitalized on the Batman franchise were not that good at all. But with the Arkham Asylum series, they paid attention to details. They paid homage to the animated series, the comics, and even a few hints of the movies in there, and just did their own thing. And
true, but that's a game,
everything
not
that was
a
Batman.
show. The specific question was like,
Yeah, I mean, it was just, I know it's a show, but
Okay.
I think it was a good legacy, the animated series. In fact, when you play all the games, you could even argue that it's a satisfying conclusion on the events of the animated series, because Arkham Knight is such a big finale, and without giving too much away, it's more powerful with the fact that it is Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill doing those voices, and it leads to some phenomenal interactive storytelling scenes in the Arkham series. And
the shows
like Batman, and I know we're talking about shows, but
I'm just thinking out loud. I'm trying to think. Well, I mean, we're talking specifically Batman animated series. I'm trying to think of other shows though that may have. I thought Gravity Falls was fantastic, but I don't know if it had.
I love Gravity Falls.
I haven't seen Gravity Falls.
I don't know if it has that kind of impact. I think Star Wars Rebels, or maybe just Clone Wars into Rebel, like that whole entire show from the very beginning, like that one we might, we'll see what happens in 10, 20 years when people are like, oh man, Star Wars.
Now we're just talking about all other animated shows that.
Well, yeah, the question was that
that was
the same kind of impact that Batman did, and I don't think I think there's a couple of shows that have come close, but like I said, this is one of those things where it's because we've had time since Batman came out.
Yeah.
It's still a strong series that anybody could watch now, and a lot of these shows that are out now that have had a big impact have not been out long enough for us. Time will literally be the only way to tell if they will still be talked about, because there's shows that I loved in the 80s and nobody even remembers anymore. Nobody remembers Brave Stars, Silverhawks. They remember Thundercats. They remember, barely remember G.I. But, a handful of shows are still like, oh man, that was the greatest show ever. Transformers kind of lasted 35 years.
The greatest show.
Well, and also too, like, you can argue too that Invader Zim had that impact. I know so many people who do that to where, like what you just posted up, that Netflix is taking the reins of that show and they're actually going to give them more freedom, from what I read from that article. It's a really tough question because, like, it's like what John said. I remember Gargoyles. I remember a whole bunch of these shows, but it really depends on if they actually stand in general over time. Batman, the animated series, it has.
The biggest thing is that the show is about such a huge, iconic character that pretty much everybody knows about. A lot of these other shows were creating characters that had never been heard of before, so that's really tough competition. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. When nobody had ever heard of Gargoyles, it did not already have an existing story. It did not already have existing characters. It did not already have a huge following. It did not have comic books. I mean, same thing with a lot of these shows. So there's not been very many shows out there, and most of them started off with, like Superman had cartoons way back in '89 with the Ruby Sparks show, and then in the '90s we got animated adventures, but it still didn't have the same impact that Batman did.
Right. Even there's like older cartoons of Superman that date back, I think, the 60s or the 50s. Like, I just remember my mom recorded them on a VHS. That's how old I think a lot of people are in here. But yeah. So, and I remember like watching those, but I can't remember what the actual show's called because I don't have them anymore. But I do agree with you. It's, we've had different renditions. It just, that particular show did stand out because it was so iconic and it did open up. Like, even some people don't know that there's a Superman animated series, and then I have to reference the Batman animated series being like, they're technically from the same people. It's just a different show. And with some of those episodes where they did collide, and why, like, season 4 for the animated series for Batman changed.
That's
because they're
World's
trying to coexist.
World's
Yeah.
Finest is a better movie than Batman versus Superman was.
Yeah.
I will say this though, of all there's been a lot of Batman shows. There's been a lot of DC animated shows based on DC Comics characters. Batman animated series is definitely the best superhero show that has ever been made based on any comic book hero.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
like you mentioned example Gargoyles. Like, to me that still stands out, and you're one of the few people that still remembers Gargoyles from who I talked to today. But that's just how you know the Batman animated series really stands out. It's just like you can talk to anybody, even somebody who's never picked up a comic book or seen like anything else. They at least know what the animated series is.
Yep.
It's the test of time. Being like, that's how you know it's great, and it stands out.
I guess that's John's question. I don't think any show has done quite as well.
Right. Which is a shame.
You know, I was going to ask some questions about what did you think about the impact, and Mel was going to say something about what made it stand out, but I think we already just mentioned that.
Right. We just pretty much combined 2 questions into one.
Yeah.
And we should also mention that Ron had to leave. So if you don't hear Ron, he had to go to work. So we'll miss you, Ron. We'll catch you in the next episode. But
I miss you, Ron.
I
miss your shit.
Meantime.
I think when all this is over, Ron, we should move in together.
I hope I lose weight. I hope I lose weight from how much I've laughed today. I have not laughed like this in a hot minute.
Well, I have another question. I've only done my one, so unless there's something else.
Yeah, go for it.
My question was about, well, it wasn't a question per se. I was supposed to bring up the Batman Mask of the Phantasm. And I think, honestly, I think that there are better episodes of the show than than that movie was. It was great, don't get me wrong. And I do feel like my main thing was that it's probably the best representation of the Joker that we got out of all the entire series, except for maybe Return of the Joker from Batman Beyond.
Yeah.
Batman vs. the Phantasm really gave the Joker the time to get his due and shine, and the better way that really showed you what kind of character he really was, because he was always really toned down for the cartoon. Like, much more jokey, funny. Hardly ever had any serious dark side stuff to him. It was always like, I'm just making people laugh and steal money and steal jewels, and I'm a thief. Almost all the bad guys in the show were always thieves. Bane is one of my favorite characters in the Batman cartoon, but even his episode, it wasn't as good as his original origin story was, and we never really got anything about Joker in the cartoon, so they finally gave us that opportunity in Mask of the Phantasm. I will say it was one of my favorite introductions to a new character, because Phantasm was a great character.
Oh yeah, especially for those, and I don't care if it's spoiler warning, especially with the twist of who it was. Like, the first time watching it, I was sitting there being like, oh my god, that's actually pretty awesome.
It gave Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill a chance to really act.
Oh yeah,
really perform, because they did better writing and you had a higher rating, so they were allowed to really get dark, and they did, which is why it stands out. But I still feel like maybe Clayface's origin story, Two-Face's origin, like those 2-parter episodes, I feel now if you drug that out into a full-length animated feature, maybe they wouldn't have been as good. But I still feel like the stories were slightly better than the movie was. But the movie gave us a lot of stuff that we'd never gotten to see before.
Right. I agree. And you can
to break all those rules about handguns and child endangerment and adult situations and content and actual like real crime, not just we stole stuff.
Right. I totally agree with that. Especially the one thing that I also appreciate was not only you got to see Kevin and Mark like really act, but you also too got to see. It is like what you said. They did not. Joker's origin was not mentioned at all in the show at all. It was pretty much left a mystery. But also too, not only did you get to see that, but you actually got to see that pretty much it's fate between Joker and Batman. You actually to the point where it's like their past lives intertwined in some way, shape, or form. And it's just like they're meant to be the yin to each other's yang. They're meant to pretty much, not to overly romanticize it, especially for those who, you know, are crazed over Harley and fucking Joker shipping, but you know, it pretty much shows being like they're, in a sense, they're soulmates, but more or less like they'll always fight. You know, Joker knows his end game of being like he wants Batman to break his, you know, his golden rule, and then there's, you know, Batman here struggling, being like, how can I stop him without having to break that rule? Even though, yeah, we've seen other shows doing that, but that was like really the huge moral where you kind of see that happen.
The biggest thing. Oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead. No, you're fine. I was pretty much done.
I was gonna say the biggest thing though for me about Mask of the Phantasm, I think it may have been the very first time that. Well, no, it wasn't the first time because other cartoons. Jason, can you turn that down? It's really loud. It was one of the most impactful things about it was the fact that we got a theatrical animated movie based on a TV cartoon show.
Yeah.
Which I think that had happened with Transformers and didn't do great. That had happened with G.I. Joe and did worse.
Right.
Very few other cartoons had ever gotten a full movie. And nowadays they do. Like this, that's commonplace now for a show to end up as a movie. Like there's a My Little Pony movie. Yeah, but back then though, back then we did not get good cartoon movies based on cartoon shows. They were okay. You know, I mean, I think in the long term, Transformers ended up being a pretty good show, but there's so many things wrong with it. It's very drawn out. The music's too loud over the dialogue, and there's I mean, it was in the 80s. Batman did a great job of making a movie.
Oh,
that was a theatrical film, not just a made-for-TV or direct-to-DVD movie.
No, I agree. Especially, I think what else too, a lot of those shows did, or the few shows that actually tried doing that at the time was, or at least what I remember, is that they also tried steering a little bit away from the show or not having it fully linked. It kind of like a filler in a sense. But I think also too, you know, what made that stand out too was it's still integrated in with the show. Like you could watch like maybe, let's say, seasons 1 and 2, watch Mask of the Phantasm, and then watch seasons 3 or 4, and you don't feel out of place. That's how I always looked at it too. It's just like it still fits. It was pretty much an extended, like, you know,
episode,
but it felt like a movie. They did it right, and Jon is right. They couldn't get away. There were not many of them that succeeded. Like I do remember the G.I. Joe's movie, and as a kid, I didn't see it, you know, in the theater, but I saw it on VHS, and I was sitting there being like, oh, is this a direct-to-DVD movie? And my mom was like, actually, no. This was in theaters at one point. I was like, huh.
Yeah, because Transformers did not make a lot of money in the theaters because it was up against another big movie, and it ended up having a good cult following over time. Batman was not like that. I think Batman actually did pretty decent considering. It did much better than most animated movies do that were based on cartoons in the theater, and it was very, very well done. I mean, it wasn't just a filler like let's just give the kids a bunch of eye candy. You know, it was actually a good story. It was well animated. Some seriously strong performances. It had some crazy cool visuals, like the explosions at the end. The whole thing at the end with the Joker, like we thought Joker might be dead. You know, it was an awesome movie.
Right.
Most ambiguous ending with the Joker ever since, well, the Killing Joke, and not to mention arguably the best Joker laugh in the entire Batman animated series.
Oh no, I think everybody
popped a blood vessel when he did that last laugh.
Oh, did he? Seriously?
I'm guessing because it was a heck of it. It was a doozy.
Well,
I don't know if you've ever seen the video of him actually recording in the studio. His veins start bulging out of his body, and his eyes start like bugging out.
Wow.
Yikes.
No, apparently, my friend Eli, I'm at his apartment right now, and he's sleeping. He said that he did read something about that for that laugh. Mark Hamill actually did strain his vocal cords pretty bad, and he couldn't do like any voice work for a little bit because that laugh was like so big.
See, the rules were different back then. Voice acting.
They did not push off the vocally stressful stuff till the end of a session. They did not give you breaks. I've heard horror stories of people coming out of sessions coughing up blood because they'd overdone and hurt themselves, and then studios would be like, "Oh, take this throat coat stuff." They numb their throat, and they could do even more. I've heard people doing permanent damage, not realizing because they couldn't feel it. Basically, throat coats just like ambisol for your vocal cords, so you can't feel that you're doing more damage to it.
Well, yeah, and I think isn't it that's because like voice acting wasn't, I know it was a different monster at the time, but isn't it that people still weren't like really treating voice actors?
It was a job. They would, rush them through, and they would like rush people through and like just get. And if it called for screaming and laughing and crying in the middle of the scene, they would not see. Now they split things up. But like, okay, let's put the vocally stressful stuff, all the efforts, all the battle cries, all the getting hurt, all the throwing the punches, all that stuff at the very end of the session. Let's get all the performance stuff out of the way first, and then we can do the things that are more vocally stressful at the end. That way, you give them time to get a break. We can, even nowadays, they're even more so. They can split up the sessions, to give people more time to make sure that they don't get hurt. Back then, though, it was a job. It was like we run a gun, we get the stuff done, get it out, because the studio cost $10,000 an hour to run. So, the voice actors are making 1% or whatever of that. It's like they would rush them in and get them out as fast as possible. And if vocally stressful stuff happened to come up in the scene that they were in, they just did it, and then they had to move on for another scene. And they could have hurt their throat in that scene, and it may have hurt the scene afterwards because they didn't have their voice at 100% because they'd heard it. So they changed a lot. So yeah, I've heard things like that before. In fact, I heard Peter Cullen, the voice of Optimus Prime, he hurt his throat doing Predator. He was actually the voice of, or you could call it that, the creature voice for Predator, and he hurt his voice doing that. Jeff Garland hurt himself doing Wall-E of all movies, and it's permanent. Like you can hear it. I asked him once. I saw him perform. And after the end of his stand-up, he opened up for questions. And I was like, well, I noticed that your voice sounds like it's harsh or sore or hoarse. And I've noticed that it's gotten worse over the years. Is it just is it hard to speak? Or he's like, well, we recorded Wall-E for like 3 years, and he did permanent vocal damage to his throat now, and it's gotten worse over the years.
Oh, wow.
That's totally true. That,
right.
That may explain why Mark's voice, besides the fact that he smokes a lot, that may explain why his voice has gotten more difficult and why he had to eventually retire from the over altogether.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that things have changed now, but unfortunately it's, and people don't understand that it was, the times were different. Like, I kind of look at people being like, you think times are bad now?
Well, now we have things protecting us we fought for.
Right.
The strike 3 years ago.
Okay.
But
I did not know that there was a strike with voice acting.
There's strikes. Well, Screen Actors Guild, it's still a union. So SAG-AFTRA is a unionized group, and if things are unsafe or unfair, a lot of video games that are produced, they did not have a stunt coordinator on site to keep people from getting hurt during mocap sessions.
Oh, wow.
If it was a film or TV production and not a video game or whatever, they would have somebody there to make sure that they were safe, and they didn't. So that was one of many things that they were like, this needs to change, because they do the same exact stunts that they do in a real movie. They just do them with mocap suits, which makes it more difficult, but they're still doing the harnesses, they're still doing the wire work, they're still doing all those things, and you can still get hurt. So, and same thing with vocal work. Like, they have to be much more cautious now, which I'm sure that's put a strain on the studios, and it's probably costing them a few extra bucks to take a little more time with things. But isn't it better for the longevity of a person's career, and so you can hire them back for more stuff, that you don't hurt them, and so they can't do the voices anymore?
Right. No, that's insane, but that's good to know. But not to be off that subject real quick. I noticed, I think Callum dropped out of the call, so we can. I know it's.
Did you get to your second question, or?
So what I was thinking is that you and I can just do maybe one more question that we can just make up about the show, and then we'll see if Callum comes back. If he doesn't come back by our question, then I would just say that we would just call this episode done.
Okay.
For now, yeah.
Yes.
So we'll just do a fun free-for-all with you can go first if you have like a good question that you want to ask.
I was gonna say, which Robin do you prefer?
Which Robin? Ooh.
You have Nightwing, and you also have Tim Drake, which I did not care.
I actually that's a tie for me. So I didn't care for Tim, and I didn't care for Damian at all. And so for me, I would have to say it would either be a tie between like Dick and Jason, more towards Jason actually, just because.
Sorry, I lost connection again. Sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. So we're actually doing kind of a free-for-all thing, and John asked the good question, which Robin do you prefer? And I think I decide Jason, just because his history, and this is what a lot of people don't know, is that in the comic books, when he was first introduced, people actually did not like Jason Todd, and it was actually the actual, people from DC who actually was like, okay, this Robin's not popular, so they did a poll of do you want him to live or die, and everyone surprisingly chose death, and then he got his amazing, death arc, and people did not expect him to go that route, so they brought him back as like this, pretty much I always view Jason Todd as, oh, sorry.
So I'm mentioning with a Lazarus pit, sorry.
Yeah, but I think Jason Todd represents what I think Batman sometimes wish he can do, and that was to break his one vow of not killing anybody. And also, he's one of the few that Batman feels total regret about, because if it wasn't for him, in a sense, Jason would have lived, or if he would have gotten there sooner. But I know Jason's not always a popular one, which surprises me, because like Dick, he's pretty much, the protege. He's the one that everybody knows is going to, and I wish they would have covered Todd in the animated series. And now thinking about it, they really didn't. Like the first time I saw like Todd was in that Under the Red Hood movie years later, and that always bummed me out. And I get it, because at the time, it's like what you said earlier, John. It was, they had to, you couldn't show guns, you couldn't show certain, adult content. Like,
but
and they
now
did
we can.
Well, yeah, we can, and we got already the Red Hood, which that was amazing. But I just wish that they didn't glance over Todd's. Like, they could, especially with the sensory, like, I would have thought of it in different ways, being like, oh, Todd was like, they did it with technically Tim's character in Return of the Joker, where Joker kidnaps him for weeks on end and pretty much tortures him in these really fucked up science experiments and gets a little mini Joker out of it. And I always wondered, being like, why didn't they do a similar thing to Todd if they were trying to avoid the censorship? Being like, have him captured by, it doesn't have to be Joker. Like, it could be like Joker pushed him off a cliff and maybe he got amnesia and got picked up by Rajan Ghul and got brainwashed pretty much into believing that he did die. I just always liked that Jason, like Dick is, everyone knows, just like, that's the ideal Robin. That's the one who, that even though he wants to be out of Batman's, shadow, he's going to be pretty much Batman's successor. And then with Tim, I don't know how to describe Tim. I really don't, just because to me, like, yes, he's, fun and adorable to some people, but then of course you get, like, I think with Tim you get more of the, Batman sleeps with Robin kind of jokes with him, and also he's kind of bland. And then Damian, he's just a snot that I can't really empathize with him, because it's like you kind of got the best of both worlds. You got a dad who's a billionaire. You got, your mom and your grandfather who are pretty much like running this huge, crime syndicate and pretty much immortal, or have the keys to immortality. And he's just an entitled brat. And I never liked him. I can't remember. Who was the fourth Robin? I feel like I spaced him a lot, or her. I know there was a girl one at one point. But I think Jason's mine. Jason, I think, doesn't get enough and especially with his history beyond the comic books, and that's why that shocked me that he was the only one out of the main ones that just never got a shot. And I wish that was one thing that they did, but I still like the show for what it is. But that's my Robin.
I agree with you. I adored that version of Robin, and I think the reason that the Red Hood was presented the way it was, I think we can thank the show for the subject matter that it was allowed to use. I mean, Batman the Animated Series set the standards, and then people used the standards and took another step forward. And they told engaging stories. And who do we have to thank for that? The geniuses behind Batman the Animated Series.
You were about to say something, John.
Yeah, I was going to say that, I was going to ask Callum if he had a favorite Robin first, but did he already answer that question?
Wait, I didn't hear the question either. What was the question?
Did Callum already talk about Robin, or did I miss that part?
No, it was just, it was me with Jason. Callum just got back in, so I did tell him that was the question, which Robin.
You want to go first, Callum?
I don't really know. I'm not really an expert on Robin, so I just agreed with Mel and just referenced.
Just speaking of Batman the Animated Series, Robins, I'm going to go with Carrie Kelly from Batman: The New Adventures of Batman, The New Batman Adventures: Legends of the Dark Knight, which is what I should have put for my very favorite episode of Batman because it's one of the best ones that they've ever done, and it shows like all these kids arguing over what they think Batman is, and one kid's like, it's his version, and it's the old school, like, hello, old chum, it's Gary Owens is the voice, which is phenomenal. He's no longer with us now. And then, but one of the versions is what we eventually got as a full-fledged movie, The Return of the Dark Knight, and which RoboCop did the voice of Batman. But in the animated series of that episode, it was so good. Carrie plays the new redheaded girl Robin, which is one of my favorite ones. And the Batman is like the big, older, I don't give a crap Batman with his freaking tank and the mutant leader. And that one episode is fantastic. And I was like, finally, a Robin that is not the standard normal Robin.
Right.
Because I found Dick Grayson way too whiny. Nightwing, I didn't like the hair. That just always bugged me. And I hated Tim Drake. He was even whinier and younger and more annoying than the other one was. I don't remember Jason Tyler making it into the animated series.
No, he didn't. That was I think one of my biggest, if I were to nitpick the animated series, I was kind of disappointed that they didn't do Jason.
Well, they didn't they kill Jason off in the comics in the one where they put it to the readers?
Yeah, it was that was what I was explaining. Was that, and a lot of comic fans or people who claim that they don't know that, it was just it was a pull because people didn't like Jason because he was the opposite of Dick. He started off as a criminal.
And Damien, same way. It's just another. They're always been whiny. I hate whiny Robins. Carrie whine. She just did exactly what Batman told her to do, and it was like that's how Robin should be. Just do what the boss says. He knows what he's doing.
Right, the one that has experience.
Right.
Right.
And if you have not seen that episode of Batman: The Legends of the Dark Knight, it is a freaking awesome episode.
Oh no, I love that episode.
Get right to it.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So that leads to one. Even though this will be really hard, if you had a gun to your head, what episode, and it can be from the animated series or anything that's linked to the animated series or different, spin-off shows, what episode would you actually cut out if there was a gun to your head?
The Creeper. I hated the Creeper. It was dumb. It was just a rehash of the Joker, except he's kind of being a good guy. His look was stupid. His voice was annoying. The whole episode was just ridiculous. And I was like, oh, can we please just cut this episode? Why did you have to make this one?
Callum, do you have one?
I suppose I heard that there were episodes in season 4 that were a little bit distracting, like the fact that Mr. Freeze was now this sort of head spider thing.
I thought that was cool. I had the twins.
Awesome.
It's freaking dope, dude.
Awesome. Oh, okay. So, I mean, I didn't mind it. I just heard that some fans found it confusing. To be honest, I don't really know. Probably. Yeah. I think maybe just one of the episodes of season 4, just because maybe the character designs were a little, just a teensy wee bit distracting, but I'm really digging at the bottom of the barrel there. To be honest, I haven't seen every single episode of Batman the Animated Series, but the thing about it is that you could watch a specific number of the episodes and you would know how amazing this series is. I suppose if I had one general nitpick with the series, it didn't have much of a coherent story, but hey, anyone could jump in and understand what Batman is, and they could have some great individual stories.
So my answer, and I wish Ron was in here still for this answer, I'd actually remove the Baby Doll episode. Yep. It's because, okay, as much as for Baby Doll, especially since, in my opinion, and I do agree with you 100%, that's why I was on your side with that, John, was Baby Doll out of all of them was the weakest villain, and especially for, I mean, I liked it when they showed, like, a villain one time from, like, the comic books and stuff like that, right? And I was content with it, but for the Baby Doll episode, it just felt like, oh, they needed to add something or someone, and I don't remember Baby Doll in the comics that well, and that's kind of how forgettable she is that, and I think you only see a glimpse of her one more time in the episode where the villains put Batman on trial and capture him and capture the lawyer just to put him on trial and blaming him for everything. You only get, like, maybe I think a glimpse of her. I don't even think she actually talks. And for me, it was just out of all the, you know, one-shot villains of the week of that series, the few that got the one shot, she was the weakest one. And I just felt like, yeah, that was the weakest. There was really no point to it. It was just, it kind of reminded me of the six.
That was around the same time that they did Creeper. They were just trying to come up with new villains we hadn't seen before, trying to find some way to kind of revitalize the show so they could keep it going. And then they ended up with a lot of these one-off shows that just weren't that great.
Right, and
I suppose it's true, but
oh, go ahead, Callum. Sorry.
I suppose it's true, but Doug Walker really liked it, so much so that he put that specific episode, Baby Doll, one of his top 11 Batman animated series episodes.
Well, that's once again, that's an opinion of somebody else's. I think it's personally, and it's just like what John said. It was just like the only thing that was good about that in, you know, the Creeper episode was the fact it kind of gave a nostalgia to, like, the 60s, you know, villain of the week.
Scooby-Doo.
Like, you know, well, I'm talking about also the 60s show where it's just like, they're just, you know, a standard villain of the week. Like how
it was
actually.
Like, let's rub this bank, Batman. And,
Right. Because that's what a lot of people don't realize is that back in the day, a lot of the villains were pretty much one note. Same with the heroes in a technical sense. Like, they didn't start getting, you know, depth and development until later. And I like the fact that, you know, the Batman anime series was paying homage to what came before it with the villain of the weeks. But, like, you know, Creeper, Baby Doll was just, like, one of those where it's just, like, you could have skipped this episode entirely and, like, filled in more story or gave us, like, more action with, like, I would have been fine with another Two-Face episode, or I would have been fine with another, you know, Riddler episode or Mr. Freeze episode or Poison Ivy, you know, instead of Baby Doll. To me, it was just a filler episode. It was just the villain of the week episode. And yes, you did feel some sympathy for her towards the end because it's just like, yeah, it is a, you know, an adult trapped forever in a child's body. I get that, but it's kind of like what John said was just like she could have took advantage of that, and she was her own enemy at that point. She stopped herself, and it was just completely an unnecessary episode. As much as like the animated show itself, it's great, but that was one of that's probably my biggest one that I would have been like, yeah, you can take that out.
But that's just a matter of opinion.
Right, and that's what this is all about, is opinions are not facts, even though mine are right.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, right.
Our opinions are correct. We're all stubborn. This is our show, everybody.
Right, so I think I'll let our wonderful, which we forgot to give him a shout out, our, you know, puppet master behind the strings, Chris, if he wants to throw in like a random thing, and then if Callum wants to throw a question before that, just a random free-for-all, like what you want to ask. And then I think we can call the episode, or this episode, good.
All right.
We'll
So
call
Callum,
this episode.
it's a free-for-all.
It is the night.
Think
It is Batman.
All right. Okay. Chris doesn't have one, so I'll just pull out one out of my joke book.
Right. Well, we'll do Callum's, and then what I think we should do, since Chris can't come up with one, is that I'll think of a number between 1 to 10, so I'll be out of this. But the next question after that, you guys pick a number between 1 and 10, and whoever gets the closest gets to pick the wrap-up question.
Right. Okay.
Or
Okay.
debate.
So my question is just very quickly.
Mhm.
Were there any particular standout moments in this series that made you think, "Wow, this is gonna be timeless"? Particular moments, just single moments.
That's a tough one for me because there's a lot that stands out. John, do you have one that particularly stands out?
Honestly, probably one of my very favorite scenes was the one where we see Bane like triggering the Venom for the first time.
Yeah.
Like that was like holy cow. I hated the way they did his mask where you could see his mouth because I just liked the comic book version better. But that scene was freaking great to watch because I'd only ever read the comic, and like seeing it animated when his muscles just like he just massive. I was like, that is so freaking cool.
I think mine, and as much as like I have to agree with them for most of the design, and I understand why they did it for season 4 was because they were trying to like combine the Superman animated series with the Batman animated series by season 4, and not a lot of the character changes I liked, but one of the few that stands out for me was the first time you actually see Scarecrow revamped. And then his voice actor changed, like that moment in that episode where you see him come out and you hear this, very calm voice that's a little bit raspy, and you see him for the first time since, the prior seasons. Because to me, Scarecrow at first did, come off very, very cartoony. Like this was supposed to be the embodiment of fear or the master of fear. And you see him pretty cartoony for the first 3, seasons, but then season 4, the moment we see him come out of that mist for the first time, looking the way he does, was just, it still gives me chills to this very day. That moment, and I don't remember which episode it was exactly, but it was that moment where you see Scarecrow and see for the first time revamped, and that was one of the few revamps that they did in season 4 that I loved. It still gives me chills every time I see him or hear his voice for the very first time. Was just being like, that's a good revamp of Scarecrow. It's just like he's not
pretty much
Mm-hmm. I actually, that was
and his voice was really great. It's like, man.
Yeah.
I should mention like John Glover is freaking awesome. Like he followed me on Twitter. He just recently got on there, by the way. He's the Riddler.
Oh, you lucky duck.
I finally got to meet Kevin Conroy last month, which was really, really cool. I've been going to conventions for 5 years trying to meet him, and just never did coordinate.
Met Mark Hamill, I believe.
Long time ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, he likes tweets. He's actually pretty interactive on Twitter, which is funny because he's so busy and huge. Don't Sicky, go away.
I'm envious. Like, if you ever want to do me a favor, being like, hey, just get anyone you met to follow me on anything once, and I will be like, I'm forever in your debt. That's pretty awesome. But no, I love his voice actor.
And then one of my favorite voice actress is Batgirl, Tara Strong. So there's a lot of reasons to love this show. Even if you're not a fan of Batman, the cast is ridiculous. The animation is.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's amazing.
So Callum, what's your moment then?
This is going to sound completely mundane and stupid compared to all your other moments. I could pick moments like, I am the Knight, I am Batman, but there's this standout moment. This is a moment for me that made me think, gosh, this is a very mature show, and this is just the Two-Face Part 1, and it's just the scene where everyone's at this social party and Bruce Wayne's just talking to Harvey Dent, just making jokes like, "Don't let me take her from you." Everyone's laughing. I'm just thinking, wow, this sort of dialogue, I don't hear that in a kid show that often. This is actually very mature, and
It's
I
so
don't
weird.
hear that very often.
I can do Batman's voice, but I can't do his Bruce Wayne voice. It's too it's too normal and high to be able to do it. I can't sound like this. I can sound like this all day. Sound like
Right. But when it comes to regular Bruce,
that's
you're just
another
like,
thing that I did notice. If anybody's like a hardcore fan of the show, if you listen to Batman's voice from the season 1 till the final version, he used to whisper when he talked, and then he stopped after that first season.
I remember that.
Just talking like this.
What a lot of people also too don't know is that this is a fun fact I love throwing at like the wannabe Harley fans, is being like, it wasn't always Tara Strong.
No, I did not start off with Tara Strong.
Oh,
right.
She was also not the original.
Another fun fact.
She took over that role.
I was watching some episodes of Batman the Animated Series, and I found something completely brilliant. So you know how Tim Curry was originally going to play the Joker?
Yeah.
Yes.
On Amazon, and it was in the cast, and apparently Tim Curry did in fact manage to get into the show. It was the episode where Joker is in disguise as a certain clown, goes into a rich man's house and kidnaps his son with magic tricks and stuff like that. And there's one point where they put him on the way. He bumped into a robot clown. It pretty much goes, that was Tim Curry's voice. You're doing the laughing and his traditional over-the-top mannerisms. So Tim Curry did in fact manage to be a clown in Batman the Animated Series after all.
That's awesome. Yeah, so now I guess it's the lightning round. So I'm picking a number between 1 to 10. Out of you two, whoever guesses the closest gets to pick the final question.
5 is my favorite number, so.
What was it?
5 is my favorite number, so I'm picking 5.
Okay.
Okay. 4 is the number of seasons in Batman the Animated Series.
Actually, my number was 6. So,
John.
All right, you get to pick any question you want, John.
What question am I picking from?
No, you can. It's yours. Being like every question.
Oh, okay. I will say that will give you guys a trivia question then. What does Pineapple Express and Batman the Animated Series have in common?
Wait, say that again. You cut out on my end.
What does Batman the Animated Series and Pineapple Express the film have in common?
Pineapple Express the film. They both have trains. They both have railways. They both have characters.
Oh, what do they have in common? Shit.
Based on who I am, you know what kind of question this is going to be. So.
I have not had enough coffee. Give me a second.
All right, I will blow it for you. Ed Begley Jr., who was the father of Seth Rogen's girlfriend in high school, did a lot of characters in Batman the Animated Series, just background characters, which is so odd. He was Mr. Daggett's right-hand man, a lot of just random villains and citizens. And it's so weird because he's a movie/TV actor, and he did so many background voices for Batman the Animated Series, and most people don't even realize it.
What? Now that makes sense. Shit.
And I didn't even notice it until after I went back and watched the show after not having seen it for a really long time. I'm like, I know that voice. I went to the fundraiser where he was at, and I was like,
I know that voice. I know that voice.
He's like, oh yeah, way back in the day, just to make some extra money.
That is wow. It's been forever since I've seen Pineapple Express, so that was just like this one I'm not gonna get. And I had to like sit there being like, no.
Well, I know that the director of the show, she only hires voice actors. Andrea Romano only hires voice actors that she knows have done stage, like they've performed
either gone to acting school or they've done stage performance. She loves stage performance actors, which is why so many TV actors were in Batman the Animated Series. But
Right.
it's kind of like one of those things, like Bryan Cranston being the voice of a Power Rangers monster way back in the day. It's just one of those odd, obscure facts that I was like, that's really interesting. I would never have thought of that.
Right. You would have been like, I would have never guessed it.
Yeah. It took me a long time
Deep
to
things
that
to learn from
same guys
Batman the
with Lens
Animated Series. It's a work of art. It will stand the test of time. That's what we've learned today.
Well, okay. That I learned something completely new. Thank you, John. Now I feel like being like, now I have to learn from the master. So, but
I am voice master.
Yes, you are, John. You are. I have much to learn from you as a talented voice actor myself.
I want to give everybody credit. So, John, where can we find you on any social media?
Find me at epicvoiceguy on all of the things. Make sure to follow me on Stardust. I'm actually going to be doing a review of John Wick today. I put it off. I'm coming down with the stupid cold that came out of nowhere. And my kids are trying to perpetuate that.
Yeah.
I hope you're feeling better, though, at least. It sounds like you're
feeling better, but I'm not 100% to myself. I've missed a whole week of auditions. It's been brutal.
Well, you're well enough to partake in this podcast, so that says a lot.
Which we always appreciate.
To record again, so.
Thank you so much, John. We really appreciate your help and support.
And all the things. I'm going to eventually get back on YouTube. I just got to find the motivation. I'm having more. It's more convenient and more fun content for Instagram, Twitter, and Stardust. So.
Right.
Yeah.
And Callum, where can we find you at?
So I'm locked up.
You can find you can find me in the asylum. No, but seriously, you'll be finding me watching the honest trailer of Batman the Animated Series just to admire Jon Bailey's advertising of this. And you will find me on YouTube. You'll find me on YouTube as Scotswizard. I actually did a video where I impersonated various Jokers for the reviewing the upcoming Joker movie, and this also as a Stardust reaction. Speaking of which, I am also on Stardust as Scotswizard, and I am on Instagram. I'm also on Pinterest if you want to get really creative.
Pinterest. Out of all of them, that would be the one I would put as like. Don't mind this in the background of social media. So yes, and you can find.
They're not coming back, are they?
No. But no, you can also find Ron. Just type in, baby doll sucks or sand people to find him. I mean, we'll put his social medias in the description below. He's gonna hate me after. But
everyone in social media, hashtag baby doll sucks. Mention Ron.
John, since he's not here, the three of us should do it as like an inside joke for posts and stuff, and seeing.
Nobody else will get it. They'll be like, "What do you have a problem with baby dolls for?" They're not gonna know what we're talking about.
Well, yeah, but that's what's an inside joke, John.
I know, but I don't want to offend people that like baby dolls.
Oh, whatever. You had no issue with offending.
I do not want to get away from my baby dolls and my sand people. Y'all get away from it. Let's be real.
That's where you put also, too, it's a joke. Hashtag, whatever. But yes, you can find Ron on his social medias. You also we'll link those in the description. We'll also link down Neil's and Chris's, which is our awesome puppet master behind the scenes. You can find me at ImperfectVanity on Stardust or on Instagram, where you can just type my name, Melissa Deeb. I just said my last name weird. I just realized that, being like, I've been given this name, and I just said it weird for the first time ever. But yeah, and we'll be doing, hopefully for you guys in the future, we'll be doing a lot more. We're actually going to be getting a schedule for the first time, John.
That's right.
Yes, Chris and I decided, being like, no, if we're going to be taking this like anywhere close to serious. We need to have more consistency. So watch out for that.
Serious.
Yes, but otherwise, I'm Melissa, aka Imperfect Vanity. That's epicvoiceguy. That's Callum, or Scotswizard, and this was our Batman animated series special. And we'll have more specials soon. Love you guys. Subscribe. God damn it.